Paramahamsa Yogananda said, "A child is born on that day and at that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. His horoscope is a challenging portrait revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results." Pretty powerful statement, and it shows the will of an individual through many lifetimes to make a deep imprint on the soul's nature. And this will and these habits and these deep grooves in our mind are what is called karma. The aggregate of all of that action is called karma, and we incarnate at that moment when the celestial rays, or the planetary forces, are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. The birth chart itself is a portrait of the soul's karma, and it says the unalterable past and its probable future results. But right now I actually want to talk about how astrology itself is a portrait of the soul's karma and how our karmas unfold through certain astrological principles. First of all, the thing to understand is there are three main aspects to astrology, three main sort of self factors. The first is the sun. The sun is the universal self, untouched by the past, untouched by karma. It's the true self within. Now that is the non-localized, unembodied self. There's only one of them. Pure consciousness, like when you get two great beings together, two Mahatmas, there aren't two suns. There's one sun. So the sun itself is the Paramatman, the Supreme Self. There's only one of them everywhere. So it's that part of you, that non-localized true self. Then there's the body, which is the localized, limited self. And it's how that universal self wants to express itself in this divine form. The body is the vehicle and the instrument of karma, the instrument of action. And it's a divine structure that is meant to allow you to evolve consciousness through form. And then we have the moon, which is the mind, and this is where the karmic impressions are stored. And we experience the moon as going between the limited self of the body and the ascendant, and the unlimited, non-localized self of the sun. So the sun is the true self, the ascendant is the limited self through form that's going to die and subject to time, space, and causation. And the moon is what's going between the two, saying, does this action feel like eternity? Is this moment, through form, expressive of my eternal power and happiness? So this is the reason why the mind and the moon experiences a lot of stress in the form of emotions, because emotions are those feelings in the moment, trying to connect these seemingly impossible shores. It's like having two shores on a river, and one is tangible, like the body, and the other is completely non-localized. So there's a restlessness with the moon, there's a restlessness in the mind, because we're trying to bridge these two poles of existence. Now, as it relates to the mind, my guru Amachi said, karma only penetrates to the level of sankalpa, or the will in the mind, or thought. So as much as we are a product of our karma, which is from the past, and that challenging portrait that reveals the unalterable past is gone, it's unalterable, and its probable future, those karmas arrive in the form of thoughts. All of your karma arrives in the form of a thought, a feeling, sankalpa, which is the will to do something. You can do a lot of things, but the karma arrives in the form of that will, that almost compulsive will. And this is why it's said that it's an unalterable past and its probable future results. How hard is it for you to go against your deep instinctive actions? It's very hard to change it. That's why it says probable, but you can change it through your will, through exercising your free will. You can take action that is not necessarily in accordance with the negative qualities of your conditioning. So karma itself only penetrates to the level of will in the mind, or sankalpa. I've actually studied these things a lot more than I've studied astrology. Or I should say for a lot longer. I started studying Eastern and Hindu and Vedic structures back in the mid-80s. And I started doing astrology around the late 90s. This is very important to me as a foundation of Vedic astrology. So in the book that I'm writing, which is on the spiritual aspects of astrology, it starts with all of these deep structures from the Vedic traditions back to the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Yoga Sutras and all of these universal Vedic principles that show the science of karma. And then it comes up into the modern astrological foundations and structures that we work with now in an astrological practice. And the great Sri Yukteswar, who was Yogananda's guru, is the first one to connect the chakras in our astral mental body with the astrology chart and the astrology signs and planets, bringing together this inner and outer zodiac, bringing together the macrocosm and the microcosm. So our karmas are delivered to the mind through the chakras. This is what we're looking at when your planetary cycles arise or when planetary transits in the sky. The way they imprint you is they activate your chakras. The chakras are the planetary forces in your astral body. It's how you connect, how your karmas connect with those celestial rays that Yogananda talks about. So as you see here, there's a portrait of the chakras with the traditional chakra delineations there with the mantras and with the elements and with the different things. And then next to it you also see the astrology signs and the planets that rule them. This is the inner landscape of the chakra system and how it integrates with the outer zodiac. So the inner zodiac and the outer zodiac. So for instance, when you're in a planetary cycle, what it does is it vibrates that chakra. Mars rules the Manipura chakra. So your relationship with Mars is imprinted in your Manipura chakra. Your relationship with Venus is imprinted in your Anahata chakra. Your relationship with Mercury is imprinted in your Visuddha chakra. Your relationship with the Sun and Moon are imprinted in the Ajna chakra. This shows the signs of Leo and Cancer, and then Virgo, Gemini, etc. Libra, Taurus, through your inner horoscope, your inner landscape. This is very deep metaphysical medicine. And I'll tell you, as the planets move through the sky, they're moving through that celestial chakra. And that's called a chakra in the Jyotish text as well. The zodiac is the invisible form of Lord Vishnu. The grahas, the planets, are the visible form of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is God, basically. Is God as the creator. The grahas are the visible form of Lord Vishnu, and the zodiac is the invisible form, or the emotional form, or the astral form of Lord Vishnu. So as the planets move through the sky, they're in the outer sky, they're moving through the inner sky as well, and connecting with your chakras and vibrating different frequencies. Now, again, your relationship with each of these planets are imprinted in your chakra system. That's what your mind is. Your mind is made of this astral energy, which goes with you from lifetime to lifetime. The moon is the Jiva Atman, which is the individual soul. The sun is the Paramatman, which is the supreme soul. As I said, there's only one of the sun. Then that supreme soul feels a certain way through the moon, the Manas, the Jiva Atman. We express that feeling through the body. This is why karma means action, but it's our action that follows thought. Our soul nature comes to us, which is the sun, comes to us in the mind and feels a certain way, and then we act on it. We act on our karma, which is our past, in the present. I have done a sort of reframe with the term free will. I would rather call it presence. Presence. Because the difficulty with looking at karma in a good-bad way, we say, well, karma is the bad thing. So I need to use my free will, which is the good thing, to change my karma, which is the bad thing. And it sets up this sort of antagonism, especially with the planets, because then we're here to try to overcome the planets, when in fact, every moment arrives in the form of complete freedom. And the highest possibility of every planetary situation is always available, no matter how messed up the planet is in someone's birth chart. We can consciously enter that moment with presence, and rather than act through the lower quality of the planet, act on the highest quality of the planet. Our karma just shows our tendency, which means how we've done that before, the groove in our mind. But in presence, which again I call presence free will, or I call free will presence. When we have presence, we are becoming present to the truth of that planetary energy, rather than looking at it as something lording over us trying to punish us or some kind of immature notion. No matter what the planet is, it's a divine force, it's a divine energy. So let's say it's Mars. Instead of acting through that anger, which might be your tendency, if you bring presence to that situation, it becomes discipline very quickly, and you realize this is a waste of time to argue. And rather than inflict that heat of anger onto another, you introduce presence into it, and it turns on you, and it becomes power, it becomes clarity. But instead of being antagonistic toward the planet, it's stepping deeper into the power of that planet, rather than just seeing the planet as the oppressive force that you can overcome. This matrix of the astrology chart as the inner chakra landscape, which is the portrait of the astral body, is deep and powerful. The most popular dasha cycle is called the Vimshotri dasha cycle, and it's based on the moon nakshatra and then the cycles of the moon that come afterward. Because it's in the mind that karma arises. And again, once the karma arises in the mind, that chakra creates an experience and a feeling in the mind. You know, there's a feeling that compels us to action. It's the moon and the mind which holds all of that karma from past lives. That unalterable past is held in the jiva, the moon, the jiva atma. And then when planetary cycles run, it's like, okay, now it's time for this karma. And the feeling arises in the mind. The planetary, that chakra activates. And whatever our karmic relationship is with that planet, which we see in the birth chart, gets played out. There's always the highest possibility. The planets are divine forces. They're divine forces of pure wisdom and pure light. This is the kind of stuff that I talk about in my book. I know you'll really like it. This is kind of one little facet, because I know people are interested in chakras, and I'm certainly interested in talking about it, but you should pre-order my book, at the very least. I know you'll really like it. You'll really benefit from it. There's also higher levels of participation where you can get classes and you can get copies of the book released to you in advance and actually help me formulate the book as best as I can based on your help and influence. And there's also readings that you can get. I wanted to make this quick video to talk about this important subject. I just started my certification course, and karma is a big subject. And also to just show you how these things work within the framework of my book and how I work, and what you would be investing in, what kind of astrological approach you would be investing in. This is like the baseline of where I start. First we need to understand what karma is and dharma and the Vedic concepts that make it all happen before we even get into what planets mean or anything like that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Share it with others if you like it, and leave me some comments.